Okay. If it's red, am I on? Okay. Just waiting for my computer goes to sleep.
It's 5:59.
It is.
It's 5:59.
No.
It will be ready to start.
You will. Right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cambridge Community Board's meeting for March. It's awesome to see you all here. This is for sure our record of attendees at our public forum, and you are all really welcome, and it's great to see you all. If anyone does need to sit down, there are further chairs, we can squeeze you all in, but I think it might just have to be as we are now. Hi, welcome, come in. Right, as always, we start our meetings with a karakia, so I will do that now. E te atua kaharawa, ho mai ki a mātou tikaha, ki te whai atu I ngā huarahi tika, mo tēnei hui I tēnei rā, tihe mōriora. To the great creator, give us the strength to follow the correct pathway for our meeting today. Blessing be to life. Right, any apologies to our meeting? I see we're all here. So that's all good. Andrew Myers is joining us on Zoom, which is good. Now, disclosure of members' interests. Anything in our agenda tonight that anyone has a conflict with? No? No? All good. Okay. Right. Okay. Right, we will move on to our public forum. Before we start, a quick note about our public forum. It isn't a time that the board make any decisions. It's a time for the public to be heard in front of us, your elected members, councillors and council staff, and obviously the wider public, because this meeting is live streamed. Board members can ask you questions and clarify, and we can have a light discussion about the issue. It's not a time for board members to share their personal opinions because it's about you guys. It's about the public, and it's your thoughts and your opinions. Now, if you're here because of Cambridge Connections, we do have this on our agenda, so please stay for the rest of our meeting so you can hear our wider discussion about this issue. And yeah, we're happy to have you all here. We love our public forums. It's the most important part of our meetings. So you're all welcome. Right, Brenda, or Brenda. She is. Farrell, welcome.
Thank you to all the people who are here for me tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Please push the button so everyone on live stream can hear you. Yes, yes, and just your mouth close to the microphone.
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
I only have Sure. Okay, thank you. Hello, I am Bren Farrell. I'm here to ask the Community Board to advocate on behalf of its community and ask Waipa District Council to defer fluoridation until 31 December 24. When I spoke to you in September 23, it was not only for myself, but also on behalf of those in our community who do not want fluoride in their water. Today, I am speaking to you about the significant legal decisions that have since been made in New Zealand around the Fluoride Directive and the implications for council. I make no claim to be a legal expert. To the best of my knowledge, this information is correct. I am simply bringing this information to your attention as community board members, as it is relevant to your role and to Waipa District Council. On 10 November 23, the High Court issued a judgment in the case taken against the Director General of Health. The High Court decision found the Director General of Health made an error of law with a decision-making process over the Bill of Rights considerations when issuing a directive for 14 councils to add fluoride to their water. The directives were unlawful as fluoridation of the water supply is a compulsory medical treatment that breaches Section 11 of the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act. That is, the right to refuse medical treatment. Councils were advised at the time by the Ministry of Health that the judgment did not set aside the directive to fluoridate and that the directive would still stand. Councils were also told that the Ministry of Health was still considering the implications of the High Court ruling. In February 24, the Mayor of Nelson wrote to the Minister of Health. The Mayor of Nelson asked for clarification of the error of law regarding the Bill of Rights. He pointed out that Nelson City Council was leaving itself open to a legal challenge by proceeding with the addition of fluoride to the water. Also, in February, the High Court ruled that the Director General of Health was required to do a Bill of Rights analysis and to take into consideration the views of the plaintiff. Even though the directives still stand, this puts all councils in the position that if they do start fluoridation, they will be implementing an unlawful directive and will be open to legal ramifications. The High Court says that all decision makers are required to consider the Bill of Rights, since the fluoridation directive does not include this. This means that it is now incumbent on any decision maker, that is the council, that chooses to start fluoridation to do the Bill of Rights analysis. In addition, under decision-making in the Local Government Act 2002, councils are required to consult their community on matters of importance. Fluoridation has always been considered a matter of importance, yet no consultation with the community has been carried out by Waipa District Council. The directive was already in contention as it places council in the position of illegally ignoring some laws to be able to comply. Other examples are Section 200 of the Crimes Act 1961, which covers poisoning with intent, Section 23 of the Health Act 1956, which requires councils to protect the public health. Adding a known neurotoxin to the public water supply is a breach of this law. The US National Toxicology Program, the gold standard of toxic substance reviewers, has found that fluoride is a developmental neurotoxin with no threshold for harm. On 22nd of Feb, the Director General of Health granted Nelson City Council an extension until 31 December 2024. Nelson City Councillors were advised of the extension to the implementation date for fluoridation because of the ongoing legal uncertainty about the directive. This extension from the Director General of Health will apply to all 14 councils that have been directed to fluoridate their water. Waipa can choose to request an agreement from the Ministry of Health that they do not need to start fluoridation until at least 31 December. There is a clear opportunity for Waipa District Council to delay the fluoridation of Cambridge water for little to no cost and for many reasons. One, there is legal uncertainty around proceeding with fluoridation with the error of law around the Bill of Rights. Two, council is required to do a Bill of Rights assessment if they choose to proceed with fluoridation. Three, council has not consulted with their local community on this issue of fluoridation as required by the Local Government Act. Four, a legal challenge against the council for proceeding with an unlawful directive could be avoided by requesting an extension. Costs for a legal challenge would be borne by ratepayers at a time Waipa District Council is proposing a 15% rates increase. Five, the ongoing cost of fluoridation, which could be delayed by requesting an extension, will be met by ratepayers when a rates increase is looming. I am asking on behalf of the members of the Cambridge community who oppose fluoridation of our water and the ratepayers of Waipa who do not wish council to incur any unnecessary costs that the Cambridge Community Board advocate for us and ask Waipa District Council to apply to the Ministry of Health to defer fluoridation of our water until 31 December 2024. Thank you.
Thanks, Bren.
Sorry if it was fast, but I
No.
needed to say some
No,
things.
that was perfect. Well done. Right. Any questions for Bren from board members? Or comments are welcome.
I haven't got a question, just a comment, which we're not really meant to do, but look, you've raised a really good argument, okay? The judicial review, it's sort of interestingly changes the previous arguments. So I don't want to say any more than that right now. But yeah, what's the term? Sort of take it under advisement. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've your argument was really clear. I don't even need to seek any clarification. I completely understand your points and your arguments. So I'll stop. For me, that's enough. Yeah.
I understand there are 3 copies. There's copies of 3 letters that have
Yes.
been
Yep.
distributed
We have them.
as well.
And I'm sorry, before you started, I didn't introduce the board to you. Normally I do that at the beginning of a public forum. So we do have 2 councillors that sit on our board, and that is Philip Coles for Cambridge Ward and Mike Montgomery, who is our rural representative. And then we have for Cambridge Ward Community Board, Sue Milner, Alana Mackay, Elise Badger and myself. And then we have some staff here and our governance team. And we have Andrew Myers on Zoom, who is the Community Board rural representative. Right, any further questions or comments? Certainly when you came last time, you were with a couple of folks, and this is certainly a different turnout. We weren't sure back then whether it was a large issue for our community, whether there were many people concerned about fluoride. We can certainly see now that there are certainly a lot of people here, more than we've had for any other issue. So that certainly is telling for us. Philip, do you have a question? Oh, I'll turn off.
Not so much a question, but thank you for coming tonight. But it appears it's not just the Cambridge community that's here. There's some rural members of the community here as well. So it's
Yes.
widespread. It's not just
We all-
in town.
Yeah, we all have concerns
observation.
about the fluoride, and many of us live out of town, and it may not affect us right now, but we maybe work in town. We have children living in town. We have grandchildren living in town. It's a widespread issue, and many people are concerned about it. And again, thank you everyone who came to support tonight. And this is tip of the iceberg. This isn't every single person who is concerned about fluoride. These are the people who could make it today. Yeah, it is also a concern for the other communities in Waipa, because it's considered that once fluoridation starts in Cambridge, it will be continued through into the other communities who also have issues with it.
Do you have any, I'll let Andrew go first and then I'll ask my question. Yes,
Yeah.
Andrew.
Thank you. Is there any data about the level of concern in the community about the issues raised?
That's exactly the question I was going to ask. So he beat me
Well,
to it.
last
Good
time
question.
I spoke, you basically said we've never heard anyone else's view on this, and we don't know the level of concern. We are working on that. We do feel somewhat that why should we have to do the work, because you are our community board, and we felt that you would at least advocate and help us with that. But pretty much we got the message, and I might be wrong, but the message that I took away was that, well, it's up to you guys to prove that there's a lot of people who don't want it. And one of the things to really consider is the lack of choice. So once it's in the water, whether you like it or not, it's in your water. You can choose to fluoridate yourself. You can take fluoride pills. You can go to your dentist, all those things. But that's a choice. And by putting it in the town water supply, that choice is removed. We are working to get the message out and to gather support. And it is starting to work, as you can see. But yeah, we're all volunteers, so life gets in the way sometimes, but such an important issue. I think that's another reason the request for an extension is so important, because we all need time to make sure that this is being done as it should be. Many of us don't want it at all, and I think it's a really good chance for council to just put a hold on things, legitimately put a hold on things, so that we can actually have the opportunity to voice our concerns. The latest study out of the US, as I mentioned, really does say this is a neurotoxin. And a lot of people who've had experience in the past, growing up, maybe they had fluoride, many years ago, they used to give you tablets and that as kids. It's not the same product. what they will choose to put in our water is not the same product. It's a waste byproduct of the fertilizer industry. It's a product they couldn't sell otherwise, and they magically found a way to sell it. And it's poison. That's the bottom line.
And do you know why Cambridge specifically was targeted? I've tried to find this out and I haven't had any luck. Why Cambridge specifically?
Well, we've had a look at one of the original documents. There's a lady in our group who's had a good look at it. I haven't. But they didn't actually do a Cambridge assessment. They did a Waikato regional assessment. And they base it on socioeconomic status, a large number of children in the area, and a large population of Māori. That's what's written in that report. And Cambridge actually, when I looked up the stats, Cambridge doesn't meet any of those criteria. So we're a little unsure why they chose Cambridge, because their reasoning for adding fluoride actually doesn't add up. And that's just targeting a community. We don't know why they targeted us. Yeah.
Before you came, I just emailed Martin Mould, who is the manager of water services, and I just asked him for the most recent update. Are you happy for me to read that? It's just 2 sentences.
Yes, thanks.
He says, Council is aware of the recent High Court decision relating to the Director General of Health's decision to issue directives to 14 local authorities to add fluoride into their water supplies. This included a directive to Waipa District Council. The court did not set aside the directive in its decision, so Waipa District Council is still legally required to comply with it. We will continue to liaise with the Ministry of Health on any developments in this area. Council is still finalising the design of the fluoridation system, and once this is complete and we have funding agreement in place, once signed, we have 9 months from the date of signing to complete the project. And that was just the standard update that he gave me.
Yes, which technically is out of date because that's based on the 10th of November 23 decision, and there have been further decisions since then, and most notably the Nelson City Council decision, which was quite recent, and that allows the opportunity for an extension. The other concern that many of us have is that the council are now being required to spend money. They haven't got the funding from government yet, and that ratepayer money is being spent to prepare for something that might never happen. There are big legal holes in what's being done, and they will be challenged at every opportunity, because this is our health we're talking about. This is our children's health and our grandchildren's. And the other thing is too that water goes into the earth. We're poisoning where we live. So it doesn't make sense to continue work on something that may never eventuate, especially if the ratepayers are paying for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any further questions from board members? No? Okay. Oh, thank you very much for coming, Bren. Certainly something for us to think about and consider and discuss and look at.
Thank you. I look forward to your response. That
you.
will be email.
Yes, yeah. Although if you prefer me to give you a ring or we can meet, I'm happy to do that too.
Phone calls.
I'll email you then. That's all good. That's all good.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for attending. Please stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like to. You're most welcome to. Thank you. Right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, wow. Oh, if this isn't the whole thing, that's pretty epic. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Oh, no worries. Come back anytime. Oh, you're welcome. We might, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us.
Oh, come back anytime. You're always welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Come back anytime. You're most welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Lovely to see you. Come. Oh, welcome. Come back anytime. You're most welcome. Yeah. Any updates? We'd love to hear. Thank you so much. Yes. No worries. Thank you. I know, I should have put the aircon on. All these bodies made us nice and warm. Right, I'll just wait for these folks to. No. I'll get these folks outside to come in. Right, Jared Milbank, welcome. Jared's come to talk to us about Cambridge Connections. Yes. Welcome, Jared. Please just push the talk button. Good, you're on. Right, sorry, I was going to say, if board members can just bring up the Cambridge Connections map and plan report in front of you so that we're all aware of where Jared is talking about.
Tēnā koutou. Ko Jared Milbank tōku ingoa, e noho ana aho, mātou ko tōku wāhine, mātou ko tōna whaia, e kemereti, i te wahina. Kua kōrero aho, mō te kaupapa nei, kia Joe Davis Cawley. Ngā mihi kia koe, mō tō tōna ki te kōrero i tēnei. Kia Philip Coles, tēnā koe. E pā ana, te taki nei kia ki tātou katoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Jared Milbank. I've talked with some of you about Cambridge Connections proposal. And Joe, thank you for the invitation to speak here.
Welcome.
This is an important topic that affects all of us. I'm here today to tell you about conversations that I've been having with my neighbours. They're shocked. They're shocked the road is planned through our neighbourhood. Our neighbourhood's a quiet foundational neighbourhood of Cambridge. I've lived here for 3 years and I've had more conversations with neighbours than I have in any place that I've lived in my adult life.
Mm.
People have been born, are working and plan to die. Yeah.
Mm.
People have moved away and come back to make homes. They love this area. People from other places have been welcomed here. Everyone wants a third bridge, but if I had a map and asked everyone to mark where they thought it should be, there would be 100 dots between the Greenbelt and St. Peter's. People are shocked. People are shocked because of the way this was communicated. People have found out in the paper. People have found out from neighbours. People have found out from flyers. No one heard this from the council. People are shocked they have not been consulted. The message is that consultation will come later, but there's already a map with the area affecting our properties. And people think that the plan is already fixed. How can you know to the nearest meter where all the traffic lights are on Victoria Street and not know exactly where the bridge is going to go? How can you be going to NZTA Wakakotahi and with a plan for a bridge without knowing exactly where it will go? I've been in hours of conversations where neighbours are struggling to understand why houses that have not been built are more important than people and community. People are struggling to come to understand why those that want to drive through us rather than around us have been consulted, not us. And why they're wanting to drive through our neighbourhood is sufficient reason to allow an indefinite amount of noise and traffic. People are struggling to come to terms with an uncertain future. He aha te mea nui. He aha te mea nui. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the most important thing? It's people. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Jared. Kia ora. All right, thank you very much. Before I open for questions, I just want to acknowledge to you that finding out about this plan through the paper or through your neighbours must have been very upsetting and very stressful. And I know that council staff tomorrow will really, welcome the opportunity to discuss this plan further. But I do just want to acknowledge that would have been really hard for all the residents. So yeah, just acknowledge.
Why?
Mm,
By what conclusion
yeah.
would you allow a press release about the most critical subject in this town for the next 30 years? You've consulted with the Chamber of Commerce. You've consulted all around. You've consulted with industry, but you haven't consulted with the people inside the area affected.
Sir, I completely understand the sentiment.
That happened.
I will just ask you to keep your tone respectable, please.
How does that happen?
Can I just come to Jared firstly? I just want to see if board members would like to ask him any questions about what he said, and then I'm very happy to hear from all of you then individually. Right, questions for Jared firstly before we move on. Or comments. Andrew's on Zoom.
Yeah, kia ora, Jared, and thank you. I just wanted to make some comments to start with. I hope that's okay, Joe. I was a stakeholder representative from the Cambridge Community Board on the Cambridge Connections project, so I feel like I have a few things to say, and I will be at the meeting tomorrow night in person, so hopefully can do a better job of then if required. Just a few other things I want to clarify that you mentioned, Jared. The project learnings, the data, there was a model done and data was collated from the vehicle movements in our community, and it showed a result of where vehicles are travelling, which is much different from what everybody thinks and perceives. Most people would say that they felt a third bridge should be sited by the Velodrome St. Peter's, but the data of where traffic goes actually showed a different story, that not nearly as many people were travelling towards Hamilton and out that side of town as everybody thought. And in reality, a large majority of movements within Cambridge are central and around the central area of Cambridge. So that's just one thing that differed a little bit from what you might have said. There is more than one outcome from the project, and that has been shown in the newspaper. The newspaper I don't think it was a press release. The newspaper took one of the four options and presented that as a primary example in the article. So there are four outcomes that could be utilised, and it just chose to focus on one. So I think just need to keep that in mind. It's not just that one that could be the outcome of this project. The project is not completed. The project is not going to Waka Kotahi or central government asking for funding until consultation has been completed. You did imply that, but I just want to reassure everybody that's not happening. The project hasn't finished. The consultation is still underway, and it will happen with public, for example, tomorrow night. And only after that consultation is done and feedback is garnered and changes made will there be maybe a mandate to go forward. So that hasn't happened yet. So those are just some comments to start us off.
Thank you. Those are useful. Just to address your first comment, I've talked with a number of people, two councillors, the deputy mayor, some of the staff that have been involved in the project. So I'm quite aware of the modelling, both the Bluetooth and the larger model. I did sort of address that in my point that largely the bridge is where it is because people want to drive through our neighbourhood, not around it, and that's largely what the modelling presents, I believe. So thank you. Thank you for reiterating that people want to drive through our neighbourhood more than they do want to drive around it.
Mm.
Yeah, it's not a finalised conclusion, I think, and in the terms of years of reference of the project are out to 2050. So we need to keep a breath on that. Not all the projects going to happen tomorrow. I think I could comment that it might be poorly communicated in that newspaper article that the timeframes that the project might go ahead in are different to the perception.
Just a reminder that there'll be a great opportunity tomorrow night to really connect with the staff that are on that project and just ask further questions. But yeah, if there are others that like to speak, please come and sit, push the button so everyone on live stream can hear you. Otherwise, you're just in the background. Welcome. Hi. Thank you, Jared. Just the talk, just the purple talk. There you go. Perfect.
Hi, my name's Danielle Shard, and I have a comment and a question. Number one, my comment to you actually in regards to the traffic modelling that's taken place. I appreciate your expertise. I also appreciate that traffic goes where the roads are, and whether that traffic needs to cross a bridge that's a further kilometre down the river or a further kilometre the other direction, the traffic will go where the bridge is built. That's the end of that story. There's no other way across. So well, you can model all you like, but I just ask you to bear in mind that the traffic will go where the bridge is built. The bridge won't go where the traffic feels like going. So there's a huge differential way of looking at that. Secondly, I'd just like to bear in mind everybody in this room, the traffic modelers, any model that you choose to look at, the councillors have already, according to their letter, unreservedly apologised for the way that the news was delivered. I'd like to know what council's going to do because of the immediate effect on the depreciation of value that has already taken place on those properties. The council is not obliged to put in a LIM report anything that sits outside the four pegs of a block of land. People who are purchasing in Bryce Street at the moment don't necessarily even know that there was a bikeway going ahead in their property because it wasn't in their four pegs, so therefore it didn't have to show in the LIM report. According to the New Zealand Real Estate Institute, now that this option, or any option, now that this option has been put in place, every real estate agent is forced to disclose this information to any prospective purchaser on the market. Not for now, not for the next 20 years, not for the next 30 years, until the goddamn bridge is built. So now that the council has unreservedly apologised, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to recover the real estate damage that you have put forward to the public by means of an absolute abysmal communication method and dented every single value under a blue shaded area that discloses sweet nothing to anybody? And how dare you ask us for feedback on a blue shaded area? No graphics, no costing, no finer detail. You are asking us to take a picture of some food and lick it and give you a food critic's appraisal of that food. You are asking us to say, don't touch that, don't look at anything in finer detail, but we want your feedback about a blue shaded area. How dare you? What, do you think we've got crystal balls as a community? We've got balls, but they're not crystal. It's unfair on so many levels. And if it was your home, or 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 those four homes, how would you feel about giving feedback on a blue shaded area that has already knocked literally hundreds of thousands of dollars off the property for a decision that hasn't allegedly even been made? And how on earth, I'll just remind you that ratepayers' money that Waipa Council spends isn't just ratepayers' money. When you apply 51% funding for government, it's not government money. There's no such thing. It's taxpayers' money. And the ratepayers in this community are taxpayers as well. So it's not just coming out of our rates, it's coming out of our taxes. And how dare you expect that a community is happy for a bridge to go through existing homes that have paid rates and wages and taxes for up to 100 years in so many architecturally significant homes of that area, in lieu of the big boys, and I'm talking about 3M, Tiawa, and your boyfriend St. Peter's, who want to develop property. I would say this is not about being a NIMBY. This is about the principle that any future bridge should not be built in a residential area that is already existing. Any future bridge should not be built in any area that has already been approved. I'm sorry to go over time. Is there
No, no.
anybody here that objects to me taking their 5 minutes?
No, I've just got a question from
Oh,
Board
sorry.
Member Badger.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, everyone, for coming and presenting. So what I would like to understand from all of you, if that's okay, is the big issue that I'm hearing from everyone is that the preferred option C is what's the problem for you because it goes through your neighbourhood. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. We agree that the preferred option, that any
Push, Danielle, push the button. Yep, we want to hear you.
sorry, but that's not correct. What's correct is that any bridge option should not be through any existing residential areas.
Yep. So when you look at option A, which is a little bit further out of town, doesn't quite cut into it. It's not through residential area. So it's more the options that are going through the residential area that's your concern. So I would say this is exactly what council wants to hear. They want to hear your voice that says, we don't want it in our residential area. So to the point of, I know this is big and scary and it's caused a lot of concern, but this is exactly the step that council is taking here. Now, 100% we don't work for council. I think it's just important to clarify that for you, we're not staff members of Waipa District Council, nor are we councillors. So we sit to the side of councillors as community board members to act as a medium. So just when you're directing some of your discomfort about the decision, I would just like to clarify that we have had nothing to do with where we are now. Okay. So we've had Andrew sitting and listening, feeding back to us what he's been allowed to feed back. It's been a very closed loop. We heard this information a day before it came out in the paper as well. So we've not had advance notice of this. I just think it's important to let you know that where we're coming from this as well. Nor is it our job to hold the transport team's hand and the communications team hand and say, hey, you two have a chat. But we will 100% be asking the transport team, how did this happen? And what are your solutions going forward? So we absolutely will be asking those questions in the meeting and you're welcome to stay and listen to that. So in terms of these early phases of feedback, this is exactly what we want to know. We don't want a bridge in our residential area. And if there's one thing I've learned on the community board is that council moves slowly and these processes often can feel like, oh, what are you guys doing? But it's just these slow little steps that they have to take and there's lots of opportunity to feed in. They've not obviously communicated this early enough to the people affected. However, this is just one very early piece of work. And as Andrew has said, there's a long way to go.
So I would just say that while your early piece of work is important, the collateral damage it's already done is totally current.
Yep, we
It is
acknowledge
as
that.
we live and breathe.
Yeah.
And also just one more point, if this has gone on since 2022, which I believe the serious investigation or your engagement, Andrew, was from 2022, I think. Was that about right?
That's correct. End of 22.
Okay, so this has gone on since 2022. My question for council, and that I'd love to find out from council, for you to find out from council, or maybe for you to challenge on, is what is council doing approving infill housing in this zone, for which we have just built 4 beautiful homes within that period? If this started in 2022, we have just built 4 beautiful infill homes in this area, which the community are very happy with, because we've kept with the character and the charm and been very sensitive to the development and the neighbourhood of the area. We've built 4 beautiful family homes that council approved as infill homing, knowing that this potential option was running alongside it. So what the hell are they taking our money for? If in 20 years' time, that landscape is going to change so incredibly dramatically. I'm sick about this. It's such a beautiful, family-loving area.
Andrew, did you have a comment for Danielle?
Yeah, yes, I do. And please don't take me as trying to be inflammatory. I'm just offering some viewpoints I saw from within the meeting. There's been discussion about, if, say we didn't build a bridge, the population is still going to increase and there's still a lot of traffic that's going to increase. Where is that traffic going to go in the town? And so we did have discussion that traffic is already choosing alternate routes to go through the central areas of Cambridge. So just bear in mind that even if the bridge wasn't in your zone, that the intensity of traffic in the central area could double or triple depending where it's directed, and that could go right through your street anyway. So there has been discussions about that. So it's not just black and white. The holistic mission statement of the project is to make Cambridge a better place to work and live for its residents. So I believe
but what about for its existing residents?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
What we're saying is build the bridge. None of us disagree that the population is not going to explode. None of us disagree with that. We don't all want to live in a global village and cut everybody off. What we agree with the concept of a third bridge being built in a greenfield site and all planning being done around the prospect of that bridge. Not about
Yeah, well, you know, I come from a rural background, and when you just say put it in a greenfield site, that's my livelihood. So there are other considerations you need to consider for the other.
That's a real, okay, already undeveloped site, shall we say, that belongs to St Peter's, 3M or Tiawa? How about that? Can't see any cows, geese, chickens, ducks, piggeries, milk.
There are all of those things. Yeah, but I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying those were my points.
Yeah, tomorrow night will also provide some really good opportunity for some of these more in-depth questions that we just can't answer for you because
so another question around that is that I noted on the paperwork that was provided that the feedback time has been extended very generously by 1 week to the 4th of April, and yet the actual community consultation in a proper form isn't happening until tomorrow night. Any community consultation timeframe should start tomorrow night, not be retrospective, in my opinion, and I think that would be fair reflection for the community as well.
That's a fair point. Okay. Question for Danielle?
On the feedback, I did, because some community members have come to me and asked about this, and one of the questions I asked staff was if it could be extended out by a month, a week or a week.
Okay.
From the feedback I got from community, a couple of weeks would be okay, would be enough.
Okay.
Did originally ask for a month.
So
okay. Okay.
Respectfully, we've engaged.
Any other board members have a question for Danielle on what she's shared? No. Okay.
This can't be rushed.
Yep. I'm going to move on, Phil.
This is huge.
Andrew, last question before we hear from anyone else.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just there was a comment before about the modelling and the traffic will go where the potential bridge could be built. It's not a question, I'm sorry, it's a statement. And yeah, I do actually totally agree with that statement. And some of the proposals I put forward during the Cambridge Connections meetings was that the State Highway 1 bypass was an example. There was a massive concern about moving State Highway 1 out of town. A lot of people didn't want to do it. The effect on the business, they said, would kill their business. And the opposite was the reality, right? So I think, yeah, you're dead right. If the modelling is not a predictor of the future behaviour, they need to be made aware of this more so, I personally believe, and I think you're right to bring that up. Another example of that probably could be the State Highway 1. They didn't include a northern on-ramp at the southern interchange by the golf course, and they didn't do that because there was never one there before, but it never meant that in the future you wouldn't need one. So, the past is not a predictor of the future. And you're right, building the bridge where we might want the traffic to go is I think, is a good relevant concern or answer.
Thanks, Andrew. Sir, did you have anything further to say? Just make sure you push the button so those online can hear you. The purple talk one. Yep, that's it. Welcome.
Hi, Kip Kempthorne, 28 Alpha Street on the corner of Harworth and Alpha. A question that I would have of people here is that it would appear, speaking to a number of individuals, that the council is absolutely committed to option C. And option C is all that's been talked about. And it's now a matter of how do we make option C work or drive option C through the community rather than looking at options one, A through whatever. It was brought to my attention that Ashburton, who also has a sort of a river running through it, had 17 options as to where they would cross the bridge, across the river. What I'd like to hear, particularly from the council members and representatives of the council, is option C the only option being considered?
That may be a better one for the staff tomorrow. Andrew is indicating to me, so he may want to answer that in his own capacity, but it may be a better one for staff, but go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, there's clearly 4 options that have been presented, business as usual, and then A, B, and C. One has been taken up as I can't remember the adjective used, but
Preferred option, I think.
Preferred, but definitely there are 4 examples. And given funding constraints, business as usual could be, I from my perception of what happened, I'm not a council staff member, from what I saw from the group, all 4 are viable options, not just the one that you've seen the most of.
Okay. Mike?
So look, I am a councillor and I am not on Cambridge Connections. So I'm probably in a position to answer your question. So the adjective that Andrew was just struggling for, that it's the emerging preferred option. But I don't think your categorisation is accurate, that is the option chosen and council was going to force it through. Okay, I don't think that's right. If you stay for later in the meeting, you'll see on the timeline where we're up to. And we are at the public consultation stage, which we're in now. And me as a decision maker sitting around that table, I genuinely feel that it is a genuine public consultation. Okay. The emerging preferred option, it went through their multi-criteria assessment, and that's how come it has emerged as a preferred option. But
not at the consultation, one ratepayer. Not one ratepayer in that whole shaded area was consulted for that emerging preferred option.
That's it. I stopped there, but it's just
Gary, you push. Oh, sorry.
it's I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, can I
Back to-
add to that? I'd
Please.
just like to point out that while all communications has said that all of the options are up for consultation, the actual consultation form that's been released to the public only asks questions on option C. It's
Okay.
very hard to see how that's
That's fair.
it's hard to see how it's a non-biased process if you're asking questions. It complete.
Yeah. I think the other thing when that newspaper clip came out is that it did clearly say the route had been identified. And I think that's what,
Push your button, sir. Just we want to catch you.
They said it's going to be here.
that's really
Yes.
scary.
Yeah.
Now, if that, for the,
Push it again, sir. Sorry.
sorry, if for the residents, a newspaper article that the information was provided by the manager of transport of Waipa District Council, and they were suggesting that having spoken to him, it's going here.
Yes. Of course,
It's going here.
Yeah, and it would be
So
reasonable for
everybody in this
anyone.
room
Yeah.
believes, and what I want to hear from the council is that it is truly an option between a series of options. Because when an executive of the council is interviewed by a newspaper who says it's going to go there, what are we to assume? We are to assume that this is a done deal.
And the Real Estate Institute of New Zealand then has to disclose, forced to disclose. So unless it's
That-
revoked entirely, it is going to continue to damage property values as of last week. Currently.
What I want to know is the council going to retract that statement?
It's retraction, not apology.
Not an apology. You can unreservedly apologize. Oh, it's very cheap. Sorry. You can unreservedly apologize. That's one thing. The damage has been done. The damage has been done. Unreserved apologies are just words. I want actions for the council to retract that statement, that it's not here. I want the council to come out and say it is an open process to decide on those various options. But what I've heard from the council to date would suggest that it is not open because they have come out with their preferred option. Is the council going to retract that statement to say this is the preferred option? And will the council say that it is still open between any of those options A through D?
You make some fair points. These are the kind of things. This is our whole role, is to take some of those questions you're suggesting and take them to the staff, include that in our feedback. And I hope you'll be coming tomorrow night and asking them as well.
I will. And in actual fact, I emailed Mr. Hudson at 8 p.m. on Friday night after getting this letter, which first of all, he says, as you're no doubt, we're currently seeking feedback on our proposed Cambridge Connections project, which includes proposed areas for the future bridge. It was the intention to notify residents in the proposed areas for a third bridge prior to the advertisement in the paper. What advertisement was it? It was not an advertisement. It was a press release from your manager of transport to the newspaper. It then goes on to say, we apologise unreservedly that this did not happen. Well, I asked him, what was the plan? If there was the intention, what was the plan? Who was responsible for it? When was it going to be communicated? How were you going to communicate with us? What would happen with the feedback? And it would appear to break all of the requirements that the Waipa District Council have on significant projects that requires the council to consult with impacted parties. We here all represent impacted parties. Were we consulted with? Can I please get a response? Were we consulted with?
You weren't, and we acknowledge that you should have been told about this proposed plan before you read it in the paper, before you heard it from a neighbour, before you got it in your letterbox in a neighbourhood leaflet. There is no doubt that you should have heard about it through official council channels, and that is going to be part of our feedback to them.
Why were we not communicated with? It would have, the Chamber of Commerce got sent a letter and there was direct involvement with the Chamber of Commerce. And then they were able to send out a note to their members, of which they then gave 6 options with regard to times that the members of the Chamber of Commerce could attend a briefing session.
We get one public meeting at a church.
And we get one public meeting post the fact of a press release and not an advertisement after there's been an unreserved apology that something that should have happened did not happen. And I still do not know, and I want an explanation with the council. What was the plan? How is it going to be communicated? What was the process? And why did it not happen? And what are the consequences to the executives who release this? Does this require disciplinary action on behalf of the executive that released the information? Because they've obviously broken the council's own rules.
You make some very fair points, and this will be something that we will be seeking clarification on. We'll be putting it in our feedback.
How do I get advised?
Well, firstly, your first point will be tomorrow night, because there will be staff attending. That will be a perfect opportunity for you to discuss that with the people on that project group. Otherwise, it will be via email with me, and I can do that with you. Very happy to facilitate that.
What process happens internally for the process of why consultation did not happen?
Yes, it should have happened. It should have happened. I don't know what happened where it did not.
It would
should
appear
happen.
from the outside that the consultation happened with people that were more important.
I understand why it would feel like that. I absolutely acknowledge why it would feel like that. Can you come to a mic, because we do want to catch what you say?
Sorry, can I just reiterate that this letter that was sent to residents, I'm not sure if it was letterbox dropped or
It was
posted.
letterbox dropped.
So this
Yes.
was letterbox dropped. I appreciate that it was letterbox dropped.
It was too late, though. We acknowledge that.
Yeah, but I'm not a resident. I'm a ratepayer for 5 properties in this affected area.
Okay.
It has not been addressed with ratepayers of the area. It has not been posted to us. I found out about this because I'm a close member of the community. I work very actively in the community.
Yeah.
I know members of the community. But this letter, this unreserved apology, and the advice of the drop-in session has not been sent to ratepayers who may not live in the area but are directly affected. So it's defunct. You've gone and sent it to 5 lots of very, very happy tenants who love where they live, but they don't have an ice cube's chance in hell of being interested in this.
Yep.
The ratepayers, where you send your rates, who pay your rates, who fix your water mains, who do all of those things, or council's water mains, I beg your pardon, have not been consulted. So what percentage of the area, the famous blue shaded area, are not living in the area and don't know about the drop-in session tomorrow night?
My understanding is that
You make a very
30%
good
of
point.
the properties in and around Cambridge, and one would assume in our area, are currently rented. What does this do to individuals who are renting?
Nothing.
Why did you not communicate with the property owners that will be impacted, who maybe have lost millions of dollars collectively on their property value as a result of your incompetence?
I can assure you those are questions that we will be answering. Our job is to be an advocate advocate for the community. We will be present at that meeting tomorrow. If we don't hear you asking those questions, we will be asking those questions. That is the whole point of a public forum. We can't advocate for views that we don't know about. That's the whole point in having it. And I acknowledge the upset and the stress that has come from not hearing about this plan through the proper channels. I really acknowledge that. My parents live in Hall Street. They're feeling exactly the same way.
It is just flabbergasting
I
that
understand
an
that.
organisation of this size, supposed quality and capability
Sarah, I
would
understand.
make such fundamental cock-ups.
Yep.
They are absolutely fundamental.
No, they've got consultants in.
They're absolutely fundamental, Andrew. Why?
Andrew,
Why?
please go ahead.
Why?
Yeah, the meeting tomorrow night is at 5:30, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm going to try and be there early, and I just think your arguments are so strong and you've well thought out. I just really suggest you think about how you're going to put them forward and keep your emotion positive and in check, and you'll get your message across really strong. And hopefully we can support you in that process there tomorrow night.
Yes, I agree. The emotion is very reasonable. The emotion is very reasonable. And I acknowledge it. It is.
That's
The
right. Just to
behaviour of the
get the staff
council
to listen is going to be important.
is
Yeah.
unacceptable, and it should never be accepted
Yeah.
by any ratepayer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
I would like to hear from the councillors as to their view as to what they should feel should happen from here.
Again, as I said in the beginning, no, Philip, 1 second. As I said in the beginning, this is an opportunity for us to hear you. It's not a big time for discussion. That will come in our agenda. We are going to be talking about that. But this forum is for us to hear from the public.
I still want to hear from the councillors.
I understand that you do,
I still want to hear from
sir.
the councillors as to their, at least commenting on what has happened.
Yeah, I understand that. Neither of these councillors are on the Cambridge Connections group. Those councillors will be at that meeting tomorrow. That is a more appropriate
I'm not worried
page.
about them being on Cambridge Connection. I want to hear their comments and views as to what's happened.
So that's not what our public forum is for.
The councillors want to comment themselves?
Look, you might judge me a coward for this, but the public forum is for exactly this, so that we get to hear you and, you know, you get your chance to make your case. I don't want to go further than that. I don't want to provide off the cuff commentary or sort of shooting from the hip criticisms or anything. But that doesn't devalue your showing up and what you've said, okay? So, yeah, look, I'm going to stop there. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Quickly, Philip.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm with Mike too. This is going to be brought up later. We're going to have opportunities in council. I've got a lot of questions to ask. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I've got a lot of questions to ask, which will hopefully help. In the past, I've been an active real estate agent, so I know exactly about LIM reports and declaring things. I know exactly what that's like, and it won't show on LIM reports because it's not official yet. But
Thanks, Philip. Folks,
There is a legal obligation through a LIM, but there is a moral obligation to advise people as to what may happen.
Yep.
And the reality is that we live in a legal and moral environment.
Agree.
It must be disclosed to every single house.
Yep.
Every single house under that blue shaded area that goes on sale or thinks about being sold, every person that walks through that house must be fully disclosed now that it is public knowledge. It's
Yep.
law.
Yep.
Does that mean that, for example, if you're about to sell your home and it goes through and the property gets devalued, that we can then take legal action against Waipa District Council for breaking their own rules.
Right, folks, we are coming towards the end of our time for our public forum. I would encourage you, I'm sure you're all going to be at the meeting tomorrow night. We will be, please stay on for the rest of our agenda. It is coming up, Cambridge Connections. I am just going to,
Can I
Yes,
just
absolutely,
ask
5
that
minutes.
the venue is a church hall?
yes,
In the event that 150, 200 people turn up, what is going to happen then? Because my understanding is that it's going to be a one-on-one question and answer session. 150 people turn up tomorrow. It's going to be an absolute shambles.
I'm sure this public forum has given people the indication that perhaps, that they may need to accommodate more people, and I'm sure that Bridges can do that.
Andrew, what's going to happen if there's a large number of people turn up and the
Yeah,
church
I'm
will
gonna
can't
shut down.
accommodate them?
Ma'am, would you like to come and sit down? Did you want to say something before we wind up? Different issue?
Same issue, but I don't want to.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to leave this discussion now where it is. These are some really full-on topics for tomorrow. There's nothing more, I don't think, that we can do without staff, without the team, without the project team. It really is worth discussing this tomorrow night. Is there anyone else? Do you want to come and just sit and... Yes, please, you'll need a microphone. Oh, yes, yep, absolutely, yep. Sorry, you started and then something happened and we moved on from you. I apologise. Carry on.
All right, good evening, councillors and community board members. My name's Ben Smith and I live on Alpha Street. Specifically, I live right in the middle of an area proposed for the third bridge, proposed by Cambridge Connections. I live in the Blue Blob. My house is worth less than it was 3 weeks ago, and I'm faced with years of uncertainty around the future of my neighbourhood. Now, whether you're in support of or against the proposed bridge location, it's one issue, but I'd like to share my concerns with the appalling conduct of council who have failed to communicate and failed to engage with the people most affected by this proposal. So Cambridge Connections is a project that will shape Cambridge's transport infrastructure. It's a project currently in its business case, but it's the first step of a significant long program, and it sets the tone for the future works. Now, council's released 3 options. You've acknowledged one's out of town and 2 are in town, and feedback's only been asked to be provided on the in-town preferred option. Now, my issue with the business case is that it's still a very high-level business case, and it's still in the planning stage, but while the maps that are being released to the public, they're showing an extremely specific corridor. They're spanning from Grey Street to Bryce Street and through the Greenbelt. It's in this specific blue corridor shown on these maps that's created uncertainty and therefore uncertainty in the property market. In the public's eyes, the maps are as good as a designation, but they have none of the due process required for an actual designation, and they have none of the legal protections afforded to residents because of a proper designation. That's many people have said here today. It's affecting property values, and it doesn't really matter if it's not a designation, it's how it's perceived to be. So the cat's out of the bag. The information's already in the public domain, and there's been no consideration by council how that information actually impacts the residents. Now, I found out about the bridge through the newspaper article, and at that point, council had made no attempt to engage or inform anyone in the area. The Chamber of Commerce, on the other hand, was notified 2 days prior to the release. The Chamber of Commerce emailed its members inviting them to attend one of 6 presentations. Last week, my neighbours and I received a letter from Brian Hudson. The letter invited us to a drop-in session and notes there'll be no formal presentation. And I quote from the letter: "It was our intention to notify residents in the proposed area for the third bridge prior to the advertisement in the paper. We apologise unreservedly that this did not happen." Now, I'd like to give council the benefit of the doubt here, but it's extremely hard to see this as a genuine statement, given that The business community were notified prior to the residents. Brian was himself interviewed for the newspaper article, and the letter that we received from Ryan was 2.5 weeks into a 4-week consultation period. When and how did council intend on engaging with residents, and why didn't it happen? Was this a case of a poorly executed comms plan, or was it an active decision not to engage with residents? Council have doubled down, and as an afterthought, they've offered the drop-in session in response to all these queries from the public. At the drop-in session tomorrow, I'll be asking, what was the council's communication and engagement plan? It appears that this has no alignment to the council's own significance and engagement policies. Why was there no targeted engagement to the people most affected? Who scrutinised and approved the proposal before it went to the public? Was any thought given to how those maps would affect residents? And how do the community board members and councillors on the project steering group represent my neighbourhood? It doesn't feel like they have. I want you to be asking the same questions to council. Certainty of investment is important. The uncertainty and thrust on our neighbourhood could happen to any ratepayer. It's not just a case of our community. The message, what message does it send to the future investors of Waipa? After seeing the proposal, would you consider buying in our area? Some of my neighbours have their properties on the market at the moment, right now. Can you put yourself in their shoes? I oppose the Bridgetown location, but equally, I oppose the perceived designation that is the result of the council's lack of consideration and scrutiny of the information presented to the public. The decisions made now on this project will ring-fence the future scope for the next stages of work. It's too important to not get this right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. Please.
Good evening. Good evening, members here. I first of all want to acknowledge the speakers that have gone before me, because I could not hope to put their case more eloquently than they have. And I think those points, if you are able carriers of those messages, there'll be a lot of us who are deeply heartened. I actually want to talk, my name is Claire Cricket, and I have a strong interest in retail viability in the CBD. I live on the fringe of the zone. I don't think I'd be particularly affected by it. I will hear traffic either way. So I cannot claim the intensity of the feelings that others have put so correctly tonight. I would congratulate you for lack of defensiveness, because I think it's important that we're heard. And I do think the council itself is courageous to actually contemplate where to put a third bridge, because we need a third bridge. So it's just a tragedy that the process has been so appalling, in so much as the impacted people have not been regarded sufficiently. That aside, my point tonight is to talk about the fait accompli of the high-level bridge being closed in all options. I think that's incredibly premature, and it's foreclosed really good optioneering, and it is myopic in so much as it's looking on today's traffic modelling, I think, because we're not privy to the data, and not extrapolating what this community might need as a significant provincial rural serving town. And to cut off one access point because it has heritage values and or might be too hard to engineer a robustness 50 years out, I think is premature. I think it's short-sighted, and anyone who's travelled throughout the world will know that tremendous heritage values are preserved in very, very old bridges all around the world that are robustly re-engineered to cope with traffic. I would like you to ask or probe further on our behalf why indeed that the current bridge is off the table. Because if it was on the table, the CBD would thrive, Western-based traffic would be routed where traffic is sent, and I think that the heritage values on the suburbs that are impacted on the Cambridge side of the river would be protected. So I don't have those reports. I feel it would be hard to get them, a person like myself, let alone wade through it. But this is where you could add value, I think. Thank you.
Are you coming tomorrow night to the meeting, Claire?
I'll have to be there briefly.
Yeah, that could be a great opportunity for you to ask the staff that directly. There will be big maps. There will be all sorts of information available to you.
I think it's really high level, but I will ask.
Yes, yeah, and we'll be there, you know, that we can be part of those conversations with you if that makes it more, you know, comfortable. Right, thank you very much, everyone. We're going to move on to the next item unless there's anyone else who wanted to say anything. Oh, you're welcome. Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
You very much for coming. You're welcome anytime. Please stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. We will be discussing it further. Right. Okay, we're going to move on from our public forum. Just a reminder, this part of our meeting for the public is in a listening capacity only. This is now where we do our workings and our discussions. And I'm just going to move straight to the minutes of our previous meeting, that we're just confirming those meetings that we held on the 21st of February are true and correct. Can somebody move that for me, please? Elise, thank you. And Alana to second. Oh, yes, yep. Right, now we're going to move on straight to our big issue of our agenda, which is Cambridge Connections. And if we can just make sure we have our agendas up. Here she comes. Right, I'll just hand over to Joe for this report, and then we can get into thinking about and talking about some of the things that we have heard, because I'm sure all of us had thoughts about this plan, and now that we've heard this public forum, we may have different thoughts and different things we want to discuss. Joe.
Sorry, excuse me. So really just we pulled together for this report the information that was on the website in terms of the consultation material that was out there to provide you an opportunity to provide your feedback. So all this is the material which is taken straight from the website, and it includes the submission forms, but really kind of open to you to decide on what you would like to submit on. In terms of the recommendation that we've got there, we did write it so that essentially you could provide the substance of your feedback in a bullet point, and then the chair could go away and finalise and finish the wording for that, just given the timing of your meetings.
Thanks, Joe. I'm sure you'll agree with me that we cannot be putting any submission together until we've attended that meeting tomorrow night. It's really important that we do that. Obviously, we've all read the report. Andrew, you'll be able to give us some assistance with any questions we might have.
Are there any other staff in the room that I can't see that were part of Cambridge Connections?
No, you're our stakeholder on that group. Obviously,
Awesome.
they will be present at the meeting tomorrow, the public one, but just for this forum, you're our guy on that. I just wanted to start off with a question that I had when I read the report. It would seem to me that And I understand your points about the rural sector and their interests in what we would think is empty land, which isn't empty land. There's no empty land. What was the discussion around the issues that would come about putting the bridge through a residential area versus how that could have been avoided putting it further out? And what were some of the kind of pros and cons? I mean, I understand about the traffic coming centrally. I understand the data shows that a lot of that traffic is people wanting to come into Cambridge, not go to Hamilton.
I want to say perhaps a lot should be left for the discussion tomorrow night. There was a team of council staff and consultants that did all the heavy lifting, and at our meetings, which were held quarterly perhaps, presented some of their findings and asked us for feedback on that. We didn't have input on all of the things such as what you just suggested.
Okay. All right. That could be something that I check with them tomorrow night as well. Right. We'll open up for discussion. What are let's start with some of the positives. What are some of the positives from this plan that people are liking right off the bat? Yep. Let's talk about option C. It's the one we have the most information on currently. Obviously, we acknowledge that there are other options out there. This is the one that we have the most on. I liked the idea of the urban mobility options for the high level bridge. I thought if there was going to be a well-functioning third bridge, that keeping that for cycling and walking would be in keeping with Cambridge CBD. Alana?
Can I just ask, are we also going to feedback separately about the process and the communications?
Absolutely. That will be separate. Wait 1 second, Philip. They will be separate from this feedback, which will just be on the plan, but certainly there will be some feedback around the consultation, because it is clearly a big issue, as it should be.
Okay, so on the feedback form that we have in front of us, some of the things that I liked were the public transport and streetscape improvements and some of the road optimizations. I had potential concerns about the number of traffic lights. I can understand some of them, but it seemed like there was a lot. And obviously the placement of the bridge was of concern, particularly around heritage and character properties and the green belt. That's a starting point.
Yeah. I'm still working my way through it. I'm sort of considering other projects that power lines have been involved with, and where all the stakeholders, the landowners who were affected, were actually directly spoken to by a chief executive before anything happened. And I think perhaps communication is everything. And we're perhaps not doing it as well as it could be.
Yep, that will be part of some feedback we give them. Is there anything about the plan itself, option C, that you liked to start with? And we can.
I think it's quite a good one to be looking at. And I think, we should be open to different ways of looking at things. So, yeah.
Okay. Elise, thoughts about what we might want to be submitting to council apart from what we've heard?
Yeah, sure. Beyond the communication issue, which is a separate issue, and the bridge location. I thought it was very like an ambitious transport plan for the future. And when I had a look at it, it definitely felt like a big town transport plan and not a small town transport plan, which I think will be somewhat of a rub, I think, for our community, particularly the number of traffic lights, as you've referenced. And I understand that has some positives for traffic flow, because they can be automatically timed so that traffic can move quickly. They can also time it for emergency vehicles and all those sorts of things, which is a bonus. And I also understand we need to solve the problem of moving people from down Shakespeare Street, which is incredibly congested, and as we know, incredibly unsafe for our families to move around. So there are a number of issues that this might, might well solve. I like the broad plan to engage in public transport services and increasing that service in the town. But again, that relies on third parties to come to the table with that. It's not necessarily a district council only solution. So I think that's good. So it feels very ambitious, feels very future thinking for me compared to where we currently are sitting, but acknowledge that the town is growing and we need to think about the future. Yeah, so there'd be some positives, but there's not a lot of difference between B and C, and A is obviously different again. So I don't know where I'd strongly land. And I guess the other question is it just these three? Like, is there other ways to look at it? And there may not be. That might be the work they've done has brought them to this point. But yeah, I think it's ambitious, and yeah, but I think it will be very different for our town. I think it'll change the nature of Cambridge significantly.
Any thoughts from you around the parking? Because I know we've had discussions before in our meetings around parking, considering option C is paid parking.
Public parking. Yeah, I don't. Someone's mic's on. Sue, do you mind turning your mic off if you're not using it? Sorry, just will only let us have 2 mics on at a time. Yeah, thoughts about parking. Again, it feels like a big town solution versus a small town solution. I'm not a fan of paid parking. I think it's one of the things that makes living in a small town really beautiful is that you can pop into the shops and you're not coming into town for 7 hours. You're coming in to do your groceries. You're coming into your doctor's appointment. You're coming in to grab a bite to eat. So I would be, yeah, I feel like that's a big town solution for our small town. And you could probably manage parking with increased enforcement. And reducing public parking, again, if we're expecting massive growth, I don't know that reducing the public parking is going to marry up with an increase in mode shift. That would mean that we can cope with reduction in public parking. So yeah, I don't know if I'm a massive fan of that solution in option C.
Yeah,
Be my thoughts. Okay.
Yeah.
Philip.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, just with the recommendation, it's got the 29th of March. Obviously, that should be extended out, that date. Just want to get a clarification first. I think Alana asked the question, but so the community board are likely to put a submission in, then individuals can put a submission in. And as individuals, as councillors, if we put a submission in, are we going to be able to vote on it? We're not going to be able to vote on it?
You're not able to be judge and jury on your own cause, so you can't be a submitter and then decide on a process which has your submission in it.
Okay, that answers that question. Right, thank you for clarifying that. And secondly, I was sort of led to believe during the public forum that we're going to be able to ask questions to the staff members. But unfortunately, well, no, I don't think, that's what I was led to believe, that tonight that we were going to be able to ask questions. And unfortunately,
Andrew's going to be our connection.
No other councillors that are here.
No.
That were on the Cambridge Connections, and that's really disappointing. Yes. And I want to say a few comments of my own personal view.
Yep.
That first of all, around communication, I'm actually staggered. That more lessons weren't learned from the trial with the fire brigade and everything. And then with the trial, of the cycleway and, not communicating with those businesses on Wilson Street. And then there was rah, rah, rah. Now this has happened. All right, I'm just staggered by that. It's great collecting data. We've got to have data to make decisions and make choices. But how relevant is that data going to be when the time comes to build a bridge in 10, 15 years' time? That data is being collected now of today's traffic movements. So how relevant is that going to be? We've got to future-proof this, and this is going to define the future of our town, which I've said many times, and I'll say it again and again. A question I want to have to staff is, that's a heritage building, and and that building's going nowhere. That building's staying, in other words.
Which building are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, bridge, sorry.
Oh, bridge.
Sorry,
Yep.
sorry, bridge, sorry.
Oh no.
So what's the difference in cost to having that bridge open as a cycling bridge versus light vehicle, lighter than what's going up in there now, not anything with a trailer, well, I don't know, but just cars, basically. What's the difference in costs of keeping it open to keep that link? Because we're made up of two halves here, our town. Won't point them out, you know which ones they are, linking them up to the CBD, like the lady talked about. Clear cricketer, I know. So that's a question there. And then, is there more options? Is there, I've went to 4 of those 6 presentations. And is there an option D, taking bits out of each of them? And so option A, which was the out-of-town version, never had anything about public transport in it at all. It was no public transport. And that's one thing that a couple of us councillors have really been fighting for from the day we got onto council, as well as this study for a new bridge. And, as councillors, a question I want to know is when are we going to be fed the data, the information? Because we've got to ratify this in, I believe, in June. And I certainly ratify part of the recommendation, which I believe will say continue with studying and determining, doing all the homework and everything. But if the recommendation says go for option C, with the information I've got, I won't be able to support part of it anyway. But like everyone in the community, finally, everyone, including staff, I'm sorry, all greatest respect, I'm saying greatest respect, but they finally realised that we do actually need this. And in the future, because if we put this in the wrong place, it's going to screw up this town that my family have called home for 165 years. And we'll screw this up for the future. The future generations are relying on us, everyone, elected members.
Thanks, Philip.
And staff. Community as well.
Yep.
So
no, you make some good points.
I was hoping, and it's led to believe that we were going to have an opportunity to talk, ask questions, because we can't keep stalling this. If we got a week's extra in the deadline, I'd like to actually see it out for 2 or 3 more weeks, the deadline.
Yep, that could be something that we feedback.
We can't rush this.
Yep.
We'll screw this town up once and for all.
Yeah.
And is it going to be future-proof that, what we're doing?
These are all excellent questions that can be discussed tomorrow. Yes, yep, it may pay for you to have a conversation with Councillor Gordon, who is on that.
Thanks for clarifying the submission. I can't put one on individually.
Yep.
And last thing is that, I need a lot of convincing personally. And if it all comes out and that unfortunately nobody wants it right through the house, but unfortunately if it does happen, but I need a lot of information to help make that decision.
Absolutely.
So at the moment, it's a no.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Elise, can I come straight to you?
Yes. I think you make a good point, Phil. I confess that sometimes when you're looking at these reports, it's so easy to be like, oh, we can only do 1, 2, and 3. But I think that's a really good point that perhaps in our submission we could say we don't feel like any of these options are appropriate,
That's
reflect
reasonable.
what our community wants, or reflects the future of the town that we are hoping for.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's the direction that we take with our feedback, is that we see some good elements, to your point, where you're like, why is there no public transport in option A? Why? why isn't no public transport an option A? And you may be able to feed back into the Andrew, but I think maybe it doesn't matter how they got to here. This is what they've presented us with.
Mm.
And we're like, none of them work as they stand. Maybe it means more time around the drawing board. I don't know, but maybe we say what we love, public transport. We love the Shakespeare Street solution. We think the bridge location is not compatible with the community and the neighborhoods that our residents love.
Yep.
And we think we need to go back to the drawing board. Like, I guess that's within the realms of our feedback.
Absolutely.
And we can be firm on that if that's
Absolutely.
what we think we need to say.
Yeah. And hopefully more of that becomes clear tomorrow when we get some of those questions answered. But that is certainly reasonable for us to do that. Just kind of, you know, pick out what's good and ask questions about further options
And
and
say
further
we need another
timelines.
one.
Yeah.
We need another,
Yeah.
you haven't had it.
Yeah.
You haven't cracked it yet.
Yeah. And this would be our
Yeah.
our perfect option. And maybe we put together some of the things that are great and some that are less desirable.
Yeah. But yeah, I wonder if we'd be firm on that.
Yeah.
They haven't, none of the options are appropriate. We want to see some more.
Yeah. Yep. That's reasonable.
Do we want to, in terms of the communication, because I feel like we
Yes.
should have public conversation around that. because our
Absolutely.
residents are sitting here.
Yeah. Before we do that, is there anyone else who wants to make a comment about Andrew? Yeah. And then I would like to talk about that. Yeah. Andrew, go
Sorry,
ahead.
am I allowed to provide a few answers to people's comments and then provide some opinions of my own of what I feel?
Yes. Yep. That's helpful.
Just bear with me. Thank you. Alana, just straight to you. You mentioned about the traffic lights. You're not liking them. From what I understood is roundabouts can't handle a traffic over a certain level. And we're seeing that already in Cambridge, maybe at St Andrews roundabout or other roundabouts and traffic lights straight away take that away. And an example might be further north on Victoria Road, the outside Shores Wire ropes, there's traffic lights instead of a roundabout, and they function really effectively to move more vehicles on the same road. So that's why that's like that. Elise, you said about the mixing. Everyone agrees about the mixing, and I agree with that too, and brought that up during the proposal. What I really saw was how it's a business case. It's not a community brainstorm for solutions. A business case to be presented to Waka Kotahi to achieve a significant amount, $500 million, I think, could be the realm of funding to achieve the gold-plated scenario. So it was really designed, and I wasn't comfortable with it completely, is it to contrast what we have now with what we really want in options, and perhaps in option C, to be able to be our best case forward to apply for funding from a central government agency. So that's why it's, it looks a bit like the way it does, and I definitely believe, my personal opinion, in our submission we should put for a mixture. What else? My personal opinion, this is me personally, I'd like the bridge to be further out of town. So I do actually agree with the ratepayers. I just thought it made a lot better sense. So I put that scenario and argument forward a number of times during the Kitchens meeting, but they came back and chose where it is now. And my rationale was, as I explained before, about what we think is going to happen is not necessarily what is going to happen. So I would be a proponent of a different bridge location. The option C, which is they preferred, is the most ambitious. Everyone's looking at the blue splodge, which is the bridge. They'll probably put that on a too big a marker, but it has got the most urban mobility and the most attractive and ambitious modal shifts, which is really what I support as well. It's got the biking and the bus options, and for a business case, I've put that in because I think that's what the central government likes. The central government's key criteria are a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, reduction in kilometres travelled by vehicles in the project, and that's kind of big drivers and why the option C is quite ambitious in mode shift and detailing those things. I was put on the project in November 2022, and that was my first month as a Cambridge Community Board member, and I've got no problems with that, except that at times I've been unsure about what's confidential and what my role is to share information outside of the meeting. I did ask a number of times in those meetings if I could share that information and that perhaps it should be shared with the community, and I was informed that I should keep it within the group. So that's what I've done. And I hope at times I'm not crossing that, or I'm kind of, I got my foot on the fence. I've got to respect both sides of the argument. You did mention Roger Gordon was a councillor on that meeting group, but also it was Claire St. Pierre and Liz Stolwick as well were present. I'm disappointed tonight there are no staff present at the meeting just to hear these viewpoints, to get ready for tomorrow night, to be involved in perhaps our discussion that we're having now around the table. I really thought that or the consultant, they would be there to hear these things because to get ready for tomorrow night. So we're going to be ready, but I can't see how they're going to be.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I send them the recording so at least they can hear the sentiments of the community.
And just one more thing, I've remembered, sorry, the current bridge location, Claire Cricket did say that, I think she said there's no option for the current bridge. The business as usual first case study is retaining the current bridge in its current use, so that is an option.
Andrew, is there a lifespan on that bridge? My understanding is literally it just has an end of use. Do they talk about that?
That's what I understand. The engineering and the maintenance has a limited lifespan.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, we may need to just come to our motion and then let's do that. Yep. Okay. All right. Please.
A question around the recommendation again was the feedback date. So that will get changed to the new revised one.
Yes, which is
4th
of April.
Will we go, are we going to go out and ask for a further extension of another whatever?
Yep, that might be something that at the meeting tomorrow night, we just gauge how much the community are feeling like they need, more time, how much more time, what's appropriate within the workings of council, how they can make that work, what we're hearing, and that will be our time to feed that back.
So the recommendation will be changed
It
to
will.
the 5th of April?
Yep.
Now?
5th.
Thank you.
Right. What, as a board, are we wanting to say in this submission? And this is just a draft. This is our thinking. Obviously, we're going to go to the meeting tomorrow night. We'll discuss it further. What do we want to say as a board about the location of the bridge? We have here. Oh, please. Yep.
Just picking up on what you just said.
Yeah.
That this is draft and you're going to a public meeting tomorrow. I'm just sitting here wondering if the Cambridge Community Board feels in a position to yet state a position.
No, we're not. We're not.
So
yeah, that's what I said to Joe. I just said I'm
just
not
trying
sure
to
that
draft something now.
Yes.
I'm feeling slightly uncomfortable that the board is quite ready.
We're not probably quite ready to put anything firmly.
And that could be your submission that we need more time. I just wouldn't want to see you being rushed.
No, that's fair. What do you guys think about that? Yep. Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what that would mean for subsequent timing, but
yeah. Well, should we change the motion? We can do that. Poor Joe. Yeah, we don't want to miss it.
I want to give it to you, but say it's whether you want the principles like location, you like public transport, or you don't want to even say anything.
Can we say that the Cambridge Community Board will attend the public meeting, discuss all options further, including the inclusion of further options, and will draft their feedback at a later date. One moment, at a later date, but within the time frame, rather than putting down. I think that might be sensible.
Is the kind of course of action that's feeling right to me.
Yeah.
For this board.
Yeah. It allows us to go to that meeting. It allows us to ask staff further questions, because as helpful as Andrew is, he is just a member of that group. He isn't staff. It just allows us to get some more answers before we put anything down in writing, because it would be a shame to put things in writing and then go and change them.
Regards to the meeting tomorrow night, I'm mindful there will be large public presence and limited staff.
Yep.
Members. There are a number of questions that we have for staff that is worth
Yep.
asking staff, because we
Directly.
potentially
Yep.
able to do that.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if we're there to support
Yep.
or to hear from the community, but I
Yep.
wonder if we should be seeking out answers.
Definitely.
Not
Yep.
at that meeting.
Yep. And that's part of Andrew's role as well, being on that group. That will be part for him
So
to
I guess my question, are there questions we have that we need to
draft.
clarify
Yep.
tonight to make sure we have that information to then make a submission?
Yep.
Yeah, to get that clarification from
Yep.
staff. Not sure. I don't know if there are specific questions that you'll have, but I'd be concerned if we're waiting for answers tomorrow night.
Yes. Yep. Agree.
We're back of the line, really. Like,
Yep.
it should be the
Yep.
residents having those opportunities.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
So I guess a question that if we can, do we want to do that? Like, put them
Yeah.
down now?
Yeah.
For you to communicate to
Yep,
Brian? Or do we
absolutely.
do it?
Yep.
I guess my first question was, can I go back to the drawing board? Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else had some specifics about that.
Bridge placement.
Yeah, I
Question?
guess the ability to pick and choose between the options is one of the key things. And if there are any other thoughts that they had around that bridge placement.
Yeah, like
But a
further
lot-
down the list ones, maybe.
Yeah,
that we haven't seen.
Yeah.
but a lot of the questions I think we have are more the other side of things. The consultation
Yep.
and the communication.
Yep. Yep.
Which is separate.
Yep.
So
Yep. Let's get to that. Let's do these questions.
You want to ask a question about whether the bridge can,
The
high level bridge can stay open?
Yep.
As a light traffic bridge? Is that one of the questions you want to ask?
Yep.
It would be interesting if there were re-engineering options, to Claire's point.
Yep.
There are lots of very old bridges around the world.
Yep. Yep.
Which still take vehicles. So
Yeah.
that would be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
interested to know-
Doesn't have
to be retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Traffic lights, the amount of traffic lights
I guess
Yeah.
when you're looking at it 30 years plus,
might be appropriate, but yeah.
and I would think that this is just a
Yeah.
starting point and it
Mm.
won't necessarily all eventuate.
Mm.
Maybe it's on an as needed basis. I see what Andy was saying about roundabouts only coping with so much.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Okay.
guess that would be the main question.
Oh, Andrew, please. Yep.
Joe, I felt when you asked me the question about the bridge location, you framed that up quite well. I can't remember what it was, but that would be a good way to ask about the alternative locations.
Mm.
And then secondary to that, we haven't really asked about cost.
Good point.
And that provides a massive decision criteria amongst all the options. What are the costs of these options to the community?
Yeah. And around the costs, if you build it on a greenfield site, and the feedback you get from NZTA and construction businesses like that, big businesses like that, is that it's so much easier, so much quicker,
Mm,
and generally not any more expensive if
yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
building on a green site. And if we can keep the high level bridge open to keep the links of the two sites together, then that gives us an opportunity to look at more options.
okay.
And I'm with Andrew and our town bridge.
Mm-hmm.
The,
Okay.
the desire to shut the central bridge is all around vibrancy of the CBD and providing pedestrian and bike and perhaps a bus only option to really energise the CBD. And that's also a business case strategy to Waka Kotahi around sustainability.
Mm.
I find that an interesting point, David, that closing that would make it more vibrant. I don't know, feel like it. Yeah, interesting.
Mm.
But it's, we've always wanted a third bridge, and these are actually like a two bridge model. Like we're like, we need a third bridge, but now we're down to two bridges.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can't call it a third bridge any longer.
Yeah.
But now I feel like we've actually still just got two river crossings. But like,
Yeah.
like if we plan both we're down to one river crossing. And so it's a really, I think, you raised an interesting point.
Yeah, she did.
That third bridge, like maybe keeping it open, like traffic is quite critical to it actually making
Mm-mm-mm.
the two halves being more connected.
Yeah.
Because when one bridge is down, it's a nightmare along the other
Yep.
bridge.
Yep.
And we have that same problem. But
Right.
that's not the question, sorry.
Yep. No, that's all good. That's all good. Right. We've got some good questions there. These are something I can email Brian about directly, find out more. And then we can put our submission together with a bit more time and a few more answers and a bit more information.
Can I just check something on that with you, Joe? If the Cambridge Community
Thank
Board
you.
wants a little more time, and the way things stand, it's coming up against a deadline. Does it have to? It has to formally approve its submission in a formal meeting, right? That's the question. Or
Given the scenario that we are in, I have like,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, just been working on a potential recommendation B, because as it stands, you don't actually have all of the information that you need. So you could have recommendation B becomes agrees that representatives of the Cambridge Community Board attend the community meeting on the 21st of March and will develop its feedback based on what it has heard in the public forum at this meeting, the community meeting on the 21st of March, and any further information received from staff, as well as the information already in the public domain, and delegates authority to the chair of the Cambridge Community Board to use the information listed in recommendation B above to formulate the Cambridge Community Board's response to the request for feedback on the Cambridge Connections project and submit that feedback within the required time frame. But
yeah,
it doesn't have any.
that works for me though. It protects what the board's trying to do. Buys a little bit of time, means I'll get a really good submission together.
Yep. We don't want to rush it. That's for sure. Okay. Do you want us to move that and then we can talk about the consultation, or would you prefer that we sign off this?
Do you want to specifically include that in here, or do you want to?
Probably separately, I think,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. So should we move this?
Yep.
Yep.
Have this one in here?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
That's good.
Yep. Yep. We won't read it again. Right. I'm happy to move that. You 1 second, Alana? Great. Right. Right. The consultation, obviously, obviously some missed opportunities for good public consultation, very upsetting, very stressful for residents. There is no other way of saying it that, it hasn't been as it should have been. We will definitely be feeding that back to council staff and to the Cambridge Connections group itself. I've acknowledged that to the folks that were here tonight. Does anyone else have any comments they'd like to make about that? I'm sure it will be addressed tomorrow night, but it is certainly worth acknowledging in this forum.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, obviously very upsetting for everyone with massive unintended consequences. I feel like we've been on this side of the table having this conversation more than once since we've sat on this board, particularly around roading transport issues. And so I was significantly disappointed to be like, oh, we haven't learned. And so I think we need to be asking some very specific questions around what the processes are with the transport team and the communications team and how they plan out their community engagement and offering, or at least, I don't know, is there a way that the community board can be an advocate or play a role in that to be done better? But it seems like there's a timing issue, like at the beginning of these projects, they know when they've got these deadlines, they know when they've got the submission. So there should be that concurrent community engagement plan. And I hear our residents feeling they're the last people to know, the last people to be asked after the Chamber of Commerce and all these other stakeholders, why are our residents not included as a stakeholder? And I think that's a question we should be asking the transport team. Why are residents not an equal holding stakeholder, particularly when they're going to be impacted by it? So I know you don't always know which residents are, but I think, we've got to ask some robust questions of the transport team and ask to see some solution. So in the past, we've just said, hey, we encourage you to do better next time. But I wonder if there's something like, hey, we'd really like to see what your process is to solve this. So, and also on this project, I think it'd be fair to ask, what's your plan going forward for this for the next, this would take 20 years to roll out, over time, but what's the plan? What's the 20-year community consultation plan? So I think we need to ask some really robust questions. We need to request some follow-up. I don't think it's enough just to give them say, we'd like to see this done better. I think we need to say, what is your plan to resolve this? And the community have asked really specific questions around, retraction of statements, real estate values, which we obviously have no answers for, but maybe that's also worth finding out some answers for them on that. So I think there's a big group of robust questions we should be asking and seeking some feedback on, and maybe having on our diary and our calendar to check in on in months to come, potentially, be my thoughts.
Thank you. Also around connecting with the landlords in that space and how they plan on doing that in the future. If it's not just the people that are physically living there, that's the people that own the properties. I think Danielle made a really good point about that. And possibly just raising some concerns about how the consultation was worded. It does seem that things are heading towards a foregone conclusion. I can understand why the public's picking up on that vibe, and I don't think it does anything to help the public in trusting us and in trusting the council. So I'd like to see them reconsider a few things there.
Sue, any thoughts or comments? Just pop your mic on. No, you're okay? We're good? Okay. Andrew, any comments around consultation? No? Okay. Right. Okay. I think, Philip, yep.
So, you heard what I thought about the communication, but, with working groups and committees and things like that, it's is it not the member's duty or job to be ensuring that those types of things that are asked, with, all respect to elected members on those committees and things like that, should these questions not been asked? Have we not learnt from other things? I'm not saying don't put it on Facebook, don't put it on the internet, but I know with real estate in the past, you've got to see people, you've got to ring them up, you've got to cover all options. And when we do public surveys, we have to get this right and a number of other things. Otherwise, we're going to get the same result as we got last time.
Yeah.
And so, we have to say, lessons are learned, but we have to put that into action now and in the future on everything.
Yep. Thanks, Philip.
And keep, and as I've said in council before, treat the community as humans
Yep.
treat them as people as
Yep.
well. Be a bit
Thank
more
you.
human about it rather than political about it.
Yep. Thank you,
Follow
Philip.
the political process, be human about it too.
Thank you. Okay, any more comments before we move on from this? We've got a lot of work to do on this. It's going to be a big issue for us going forward, and not just in the short term, in the long term. And our job is to be the voice of the community, and we're going to have to be across this in every which way we can.
Yeah, Joe,
Right. Oh, Andrew, yes.
sorry,
Sorry.
just really to protect the community board, and it is public information. It's in my email. I did put forward more than once that, the community should be consulted more than was proposed.
Thank you. Yep. No, that's great, Andrew. Thank you.
Could I just note one thing?
Yes.
You had the resolution which you firsted and seconded. You didn't put to the vote, which is fine.
Oh, I
But-
didn't. You're
yeah,
right. Yes,
but-
I should have. I do apologize. I'll come back to it.
And if it could just be recorded that I did not participate in the vote.
Yep.
And just
Yep.
to those people watching, that is that's nothing sinister. It's the opposite. It's so that when we're deciding at council, I'm still an active decision maker. If I've expressed strong, prejudice here, I actually technically can't participate there. So don't please take my relative silence as anything other than just serious dedication to doing my job. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, good. You made a
Okay.
good point. And I apologize. I had all the thoughts, and then I forgot to do that. So apologies. Yes, I'll come back. Should we do it again, Joe, so we've got a first, a second, and just all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
And Mike and Philip abstained. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Apologies for that missed moment. Right, we're going to move on from Cambridge Connections now. Thank you to everybody who came. We really appreciate it. If you folks would like to leave your email addresses so I can keep in contact with you directly, I'd appreciate that. Or if you'd prefer, my email is publicly listed. You can email me in the first instance if that's easier. Just whatever works. Zoe will pop round with a piece of paper. Yeah. And Alana made a good comment. Those of you who had presentations or things written up, if you're able to send them through to us, that's great. It all helps us with that voice of the community. So if you had stuff written down and you can just even email it through, that would be great. Just helps us remember everything that was said. Thank you. And perhaps where you live as well. Just the street, not the number, just where you live or have a property. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ben. Nice to see you. Thank you. Right, guys, I'm actually just going to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. Just let us all have a stretch, use the bathroom if we need, and just get ourselves together for the last little bit. So it is 8 o'clock. Let's do 8:10. 8:10. Yes, very brief. Yep. Right, welcome back, everyone. I'm going to carry on with our meeting and we're going to move through a return of unused funds. Oh, no, where are we? Oh, sorry, I've missed Jim. Right, appointment to the Anzac Day Working Group and Armistice Remembrance Day Working Group. We would like to add Jim Gooden to that group. He's insanely helpful and he pops in irregularly as it is. We'd like to formally add him to that committee. He very kindly does most of the printing for us, so it makes sense that he is involved and helps make some of the decisions. So anyone got any issue with that? Everyone's okay with that? Absolutely. Yes, yes. Oh, do we need to add you too? We need to add Alana as well. Alana, I'm so sorry. For some reason, I thought, can we add Alana in too? Okay. Okay, so our motion is.
It's good having
Sorry.
Jim, good having Jim there because he's part of St John's too.
Oh, it's great. Yep, very valuable. Yep. Okay, so our motion is that we received the report from Joe about the Anzac Working Group and the Armistice Remembrance Day Working Group, and that we appoint Jim Gooden and Alana Mackay to that group.
I thought it was Godden.
What am I saying? Gooden. Gooden.
Gooden, but he's got an.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 Ds too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too good.
And we'll remember Alana Mackay.
Yeah. We'll remember a lot.
Yeah. Right, I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder? Sue Milner, all in favour? Aye, great.
Aye.
No one against? Awesome. Okay, right, return of unused funds. Joe, I'll hand over.
This is just returning some unused funds that we have for the pop-up garden project from previous financial years. Just to try and tidy up the accounts.
Yep. I'll second that. All in favour?
Aye.
What do we do? Oh yeah, Andrew's eyeing. Oh, right. Okay. All right. Any against? No. Okay. That motion is carried. Thank you. Right. Treasury report. Over to you again, Joe.
This is just an updated position from the period ended 29th February 2024 that we've got there and showing in your balance of $25,176.24 and uncommitted. Any questions?
No. Anyone got any questions? No. Okay, I'm happy to move that treasury report. Second out, Lana. All in favour? Aye. Great. Okay. Board members' reports from meetings attended. Sue, should we start with you? Oh, pop your mic on, Sue. Sorry.
Into the tree trust the other day. They're watching out for the Dutch elm disease. They're right onto it. So far, I don't think they found anything, but they are aware of it. So that's their big thing. They're also working terribly hard planting and looking after our trees. I don't think we acknowledge them as much as we should do. So much of what goes on in our reserves, what they're doing. And you know, it's not like they're spring chickens, but they're out there doing a great job. So absolutely wonderful. So that's the thing. And the Autumn Festival opening. Another excellent festival. Congratulations to the organisers. I'm looking forward to Friday's concert with the, what should I put? There's something happening weekend, so
There's a lot happening.
there's a lot happening.
There's a
and
lot.
They're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
It's great and may continue for many years yet.
Yes.
Okay, Alana?
Well done.
Right.
Right, Alana?
Yes, thank you. As Sue mentioned, we're only halfway through the Cambridge Autumn Festival, so much more to come along to. It's busy times with that at the moment. I've attended a couple of Chamber of Commerce events, including a farewell for Kevin and Jane Burgess, who have retired, but are certainly not leaving the local community. So they'll continue to be involved wherever they can, and the Anzac Day group as well. So thank you.
No, but I attended the opening of the
Autumn Festival.
which was very well run by Alana, doing a great job, and a really nice program, full program. It's great. Well done.
Awesome. I attended the Global Cities Conference in Blenheim and presented on our Lukinwa sister city relationship, which was really well received. And it really reminded me that both our sister city relationships are important and valuable, but the Lukinwa one is very unique and it's very special and it's different from any other town and their sister city. So it was really great for people to see our very unique connection that we have, and the value of it. That's pretty much me for now. Andrew?
The Safer Community Trust meeting was last Thursday night. I was at school camp, so couldn't attend. Philip, were you able to go to that meeting?
No, I couldn't attend either. I registered my apologies for that.
Yep.
So I believe the only little comment is that our treasurer is resigning, we're resigning at the end of this month. That was his last meeting. So the committee's in search of a new treasurer, and they're asking the various members of the committee are asking their contacts, their accountants, and people like that that have got a financial head on them, and to see if they would stand in and replace the current treasurer who's resigning at the end of this month. So,
I did check with the attendees about any feedback. They said it was a quiet meeting and not much going on. In the minutes, it was noted that I think up to 10 occasions the Leamington Cemetery was left unlocked in February. So it's an ongoing issue. We've provided many times feedback to the council that the contractor's not doing their job, and so it's ongoing. So that's just one thing to note there. I just had some correspondence from the Mangatauteri Hall Committee regarding the Pireri Hall, which burnt down a couple of months ago, and they were concerned about, say something happened in their hall, what level of insurance needs to be held by them or the council, and what would happen in the instance of a hall burning down. So I thought that was a really good question, and I forwarded that to council, and that contact did get directly back to the Mangatauteri Hall, with an answer, which was really good. I talked to 2 sports clubs informally about this sports field lease review model, and just getting up to date where we're at as a community board. And as mentioned on our chat, I had the people from the sport of motocross approach me about they haven't found a home yet where they were, and town hasn't been developed, and they're wondering kind of why not. And they had some ideas about a use on a farm in the Cambridge region. I asked them to come to the meeting tonight. They haven't obviously turned up, so I will ask again at the next meeting if they're interested to come along.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks. Oh, and I did attend the Cambridge Connection stakeholder meeting.
Good. Great. Okay. Mike, Philip, any kind of council updates that are...
Yeah, just recently, we've just ratified the advance annual plan as the long-term plan, which was to be ratified this year, has been extended by 12 months. So we've just done that. So,
okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Joe, how much do you want us to speak about what's been going on? I mean, the significant points are that we've gone to an enhanced annual plan. Everyone understands that, rather than a long-term plan. So we're delaying the long-term plan by 1 full year. And so we'll be back into that cycle pretty soon. And last Tuesday at SPMP meeting, the release of the sort of the financial picture for council was very significant. Joe was there.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys up with it, understanding it? Do you want?
Yep.
Yep. It's public reports. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
We'll
Okay, so
we need to formulate our questions and get ourselves.
Okay.
yeah, familiar
Cool.
with
I mean, that,
what
look,
we need
that's
to
good
do.
news from council, those two items, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks,
Yeah,
Mike.
And just another thing, sort of going back to before with communication is the mayor drove around the town with a couple of senior staff members and looked at all the projects going on. At the moment, there's 22 lots of roading projects going on around the place. And again, about consultation, there's a lot of a few comments have been made by elected members about how much angst there is out there in the community, and with all the projects going on and perceived to be a lack of information in some cases. So again, we've got to rectify that. And so we will be asking some of those questions, but it's all going to be taken on board.
Yep. Thanks for that. Right. Okay. Moving on to the date of our next meeting will be 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 17th of April. And with that, I'm going to close our meeting and I'll hand over to Deputy Elise to do our closing karakia.
Te pau hihiri, te pau rārama, te pau o te whakaaro, te pau o te tangata, te pau o te aroha. Kau i nei ngā pau, e here nei i a tātou, mauri ora ki a tātou. Haumi e, hui e, tai e ki e. May clarity be yours, may understanding be yours, through reflection, through personal endeavour, through respect. These are the virtues that bind us as one. May we be filled with well-being, join, gather, unite.
Thanks, Elise. And that's our meeting closed. Thank you.